The erosion of American values is on full display as the largest corporations in the country bow down to the demands of the Chinese Communist Party. They are complicit in silencing voices, supporting human rights abuses, and enforcing censorship for the Chinese government. Today's video will expose 5 of the biggest American corporations that have chosen profits over principles by bowing down to the Chinese Communist Party. Apple often talks about their commitment to civil liberties and privacy.
Privacy to us is a human right. It's a civil liberty. You know, this is like freedom of speech and freedom of the press, and privacy is right up there for us.
Yet when it comes to operating in the Chinese market, these beliefs are thrown out the window. On the behalf of the Chinese government, Apple has censored apps in their App Store and allowed the Chinese government to have access to all the customer data of Chinese users.
Apple plans to store personal data for its Chinese customers on computer servers run by a state-owned firm. Apple has largely handed control to the Chinese government.
Apple has also repeatedly helped China control dissent by removing apps that protesters have used to coordinate, communicate, or gather information.
Apple is standing behind its decision to remove an app that pinpointed the locations of Hong Kong protesters.
Their most recent example of this was in November of 2022, when protests erupted in China over Xi Jinping's anointment to a third term as leader. With the most visible protest being a banner in Beijing calling for a strike against Xi Jinping. The Great Firewall of China makes it very difficult for protest information to spread online. So to evade censorship, protesters in China were using the AirDrop feature on iPhones to share protest literature on college campuses and subway stations. However, a few days later, Apple released a system update that only affected phones in China. The update made it so the Allow AirDrops from Everyone setting could only be enabled for 10 minutes at a time, making it harder for Chinese protesters to share their messages. The NBA. Despite being the smallest company on this list, I consider the NBA to be the most subservient to the CCP. This was evident in 2019 when Daryl Morey, the general manager for the NBA team, the Houston Rockets, tweeted his support for pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong, who were fighting for their freedom. This tweet sparked outrage among NBA fans in China, leading to the owner of the Houston Rockets rebuking Morey. The Houston Rockets star player also expressed his love for everything about China, which would include slavery.
Yeah, we apologize. We love China. We love, playing there. We love everything, they're about.
Even the NBA's most prominent figure, LeBron James, publicly criticized Morey and sided with the CCP, claiming that profits outweighed people's loss of freedom.
Freedom of speech, yes, we all do have freedom of speech, but at times there are ramifications for the negative that can happen when you're not thinking about others and you're only thinking about yourself. So when you're not thinking about others and you're only thinking about yourself. But Daryl Morey, but I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand. So many people could have been harmed. Not only financially, but physically.
The NBA demonstrated its subservience to the CCP again when Enes Kanter, an NBA player, wore sneakers with anti-CCP designs, including Free Tibet and Stop Organ Harvesting, which led him to being traded to the Houston Rockets and promptly cut from their roster. Kanter accused the NBA of trying to silence him and pointed out the hypocrisy of promoting Black Lives Matter while ignoring concentration camps and forced organ harvesting in China.
The hypocrisy side is the one that hurts me the most. When it comes to problems that happen in America, they're the first organization that's saying this is wrong, this is what should happen, blah blah blah, right? Black Lives Matter, no Asian hates, Latino community, LGBTQ community in America.
Disney. To avoid damaging their business interests in China, Disney has engaged in censorship of several of their movies and TV shows. The company's streaming service in Hong Kong stopped airing a particular episode of The Simpsons that satirizes China's suppression of the Tiananmen Square protesters.
Look at him sleeping. He's like a little angel that killed 50 million people. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And perhaps the most sickening thing that Disney did to appease the CCP was to film part of their new Mulan movie in Xinjiang, the same province where millions of Muslims are in concentration camps. In the end credits of this movie, Disney even thanked the same government entities that operate these concentration camps, which highlights just how little this media giant cares about humanity. Google and YouTube have been aiding the Chinese government in controlling public opinion by allowing Chinese state-backed sources to dominate search results for sensitive topics. The most glaring example is the Xinjiang conflict, where human rights abuses against Uyghur Muslims in China's Xinjiang region, including forced labor and internment in concentration camps, have been ongoing. According to research by the Brookings Institute, search results for Xinjiang routinely return state-backed content in news searches, with at least one Chinese state-backed news outlet appearing in the top 10 results of 88% of searches. Similarly, the top results for Fort Detrick on YouTube are overwhelmingly composed of Chinese state-backed media, promoting conspiracy theories about the origin of COVID-19. These outlets claim that the virus originated from the United States Biological Defense Program at Fort Detrick. In the past, Google also had plans to launch a censored search engine in China called Project Dragonfly, which would have blocked searches related to democracy, Chinese torture, and Falun Gong. However, due to significant backlash from US lawmakers and government officials, Google ultimately abandoned the project. Google also operated an artificial intelligence center in China that indirectly supported the Chinese military. However, this initiative was also terminated following criticism from US lawmakers and government officials.
The work that Google is doing in China is indirectly benefiting the Chinese military. We watch with great concern when industry partners work in China, knowing that there is that indirect benefit. In fact, frankly, indirect may be not a full characterization of the way it really is. It's more of a direct benefit to the Chinese military.
Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard has repeatedly demonstrated their alignment with the CCP. For instance, in 2019, Blizzard refused to pay a professional gamer his prize money for voicing his support for pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong.
Activision Blizzard. It has suspended a gamer and taken his prize money away because he made comments supporting Hong Kong protesters.
Similarly, that same year, Blizzard removed the Taiwanese flag option from their games to show support for China's plan to invade Taiwan. Check out my last video on 4 ways that billionaires are preparing for society to collapse.